you. It's your lovely host, and this is Shara. And
This is Liz. Welcome back, y'all. We keep having breaks, but life is lifing, and we're
yeah,
excited to be here. But now we're back on a regular cadence.
yeah.
It was just a lot. Like January was 40 days long, February is about 10, and now
Ah,
we're
you're being
now we're
nice. It was like a year and a half of January and
January.
45,
January was
45 days
rough.
of December.
Yes. So welcome back, y'all. I'm personally very, very excited that we get to have this space again. Cher and I get to have a weekly like catch up. You get to be a part of it. And yeah, so how are you, Cher?
So listen, Liz, I'm doing great. Listen, I know we were talking about this before the call, which was like, first and foremost, let me just tell y'all, if you're not watching the video, I got some Beyonce here. I just want to let you know, inspired
Cute,
Texas
cute,
Hold'em, okay?
cute.
Alamo Bowl, honey. We was, Beyonce bowling it. Okay. So yes, inspired. Okay. This is gonna change a little bit because I got some other ideas around it. But if you're not watching the video, you don't know what I'm talking about. So
And I got a camp girl like roasted marshmallows on the
yeah,
campfire look.
yes.
It's cold still. I have some I'm making some chicken broth out of my bones.
Girl. This farmer life that you're choosing, I keep telling you to
But I
resist.
still got sparkles. Look at it. Look, I'm a sparkly farm girl.
I
Ooh.
know. Liz is secretly converted into like this very countryside living, and she eases it in every once in a while when we're talking, and
Mm.
I'm like, Liz, you really have to chill on this. Like, this is not the spirit.
No, it was look, I'm a chameleon. I could step in multiple places, but
A
I do
comedian or a chameleon? Where we at?
both.
You're both. I'm gonna say because you have many skills. We've already established that.
Yes, I'm a chameleon. I'm a chameleon. I can't say that word. I'm a chameleon. What is the word, Cher? Anyways, I'm a that. I'm a camouflage person. So the sun comes out. I'm in my husband's office at the moment. So the sun comes out, and I immediately go and put the washing out.
Not
I
the
hang
wash.
my washing out.
Liz, please don't tell them. Liz,
I
I've been
do.
trying
I
to
do.
save
You
you
know
some
what? Because
Houston
I do want to
cred.
save the earth. I do want to save the earth. Okay, like that's a real big part of the Slay household because we gotta we're actively saving the earth. I have my oldest campaigning about the ocean.
Yep.
I have the second one, reading books about taking care of our animals that are going extinct. And, he also tells us that we can't be using plastic bags.
Correct.
He is no longer buying plastic toys.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. So, he's like, okay, well, if it's gonna end up in the landfill, we're not doing that.
Wow.
So yeah. So yeah, we saving the earth.
I love it. Listen, I want all the kids to have all the passion and the optimism, and I think they'll be the change we need to see around making sure that we have a planet to live on. And I definitely feel like I appreciate it, but I think you're diverting the conversation from the fact that this A-leaf girl here has really turned into a countryside, really giving countryside farmland feels here. And when I saw the compost, I said, yeah, this different. This is different. And the milk delivery is
Oh yeah, the
it's one of my
milkman.
favorite things, but it's definitely, I mean, like, where are we? Like, mm,
It's yeah, it's nice. Like for the holiday season, they had tractors with light so they have a parade of tractors with like lights all decorated and stuff. So here we are in our like rain boots walking walking up the street down Main Street
down
and
Main Street,
Main Street, y'all.
the
Just
butcher, the baker, the candlestick
to
maker.
make
Like,
it.
and some of that's true. That's the funny part. Some
We
of
got
that's actually
all
true.
those. Wait a minute. We got all those. We got all three of those. All of them. Yeah, all that butcher.
Right by
I go to the
your
butcher.
favorite nail salon, which which was on the tour. Liz was like, "So here's the butcher, here's the baker, here's my favorite nail salon and my favorite coffee."
The nail salon. That had drama in December. So we had to
Ooh,
we no longer have a nail salon. Look at these. Look at this. Look at these farmer
I
hands.
see.
I know.
Farmer kids. No. Okay, you gotta tell me offline what happened because that is
Hey,
dramatic. Because you and the nail salon had was y'all was coming with the designs, and I was like, that is cute.
but
Okay, so y'all listen. I'm hoping that y'all got a chance to really kind of hear. Liz and I have been super busy. Like what we haven't shared is that like we're busy. We're so busy. Like between the consulting work Liz is doing and the major stuff that she's been doing with these big, nice, juicy contracts and clients. And me just like navigating like all the things here in the US and trying to like support international clients and stuff like that. It's so important to like really just kind of take a stock and be like, okay, look, we are well prepared for these moments. And so we're just done preparing and we're doing. And so, listen, this podcast is something we always want to get to, but it has been so hard. It's been so
but
hard.
we're committing because here's something. I'm part of this beautiful, wonderful group called I'm gonna shout them out. I'm gonna shout them out in our podcast. Coaches of Color, here in the UK in London, and the co-owners Elaine and Gary, they put together. They also are in the DEI space, and they have a whole cohort of coaches in the UK, and they decided, you know what, now's the time to bring us all together.
Yeah.
And I have known them since I moved to the UK. I started following them on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, I really like this company, and then connected with them, and they've just been part of my network. And they put on a gathering of our coaches of color group. And it was such a beautiful, inspiring place. You know how you feel sometimes like, okay, I know I'm smart. I know I'm a really hard worker. I know I'm a great coach. Sometimes when you step in spaces and you're like, oh, I am no longer the smartest person in this room or the most inspiring in this room. Oh my gosh. And you don't see it as like a competition. No, there was no competition. No competition, which is a very a rarity for me because sometimes in the consulting space it can be very competitive.
Hmm.
It can have like the mean girl guy spirit, but it was not like that. It was so beautiful and wonderful. What I'm trying to get to is the one thing that I really, this was like right after January's 40 days or a year and a half, to Cher's point, happened. This was at the beginning of February, and it shifted my mindset on how I approach these days.
Yeah.
There's so much heavy stuff out there, and you
Yeah.
have a choice. You can either perpetuate the negativity,
Hmm.
or you could lean into the work that you've put in over the years. And I think you and I were talking about that, Sharon, when we were talking about what we wanted to bring up today. I said, okay, well, what's the tone? Like, well, how are we approaching these topics, or how are we approaching this comeback that we're bringing in? Are we being like, oh, woe is me? Or are we like, hey, this is the reality. This is where we're at today. How do we bring light and community? So those are the two things that came out
Yeah.
from that Coaches of Color event in February. And it was
Yeah.
beautiful to meet people that I hadn't met in like physical realness,
Yeah.
and then it shifted my own mindset, because I have to be very honest, I was very negative in January.
Mm.
I came off of a really tough year, rewarding and tough, and I was already tired. I only had 2 weeks of a break, and then it was right back into it. And then with everything happening, not just in the US, which is a huge component because we're feeling it too, but we had our own election. And so we are starting to see, those changes come into play, and still some of the repercussions of Brexit, and those kind of things that are showing up in the light of things.
Yeah.
So that's where that's where I'm at. I want to bring
Yeah.
a little light, a little
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, you're in a good spot because let me tell you, no, I have been in so many of these conversations, think tanks, or whatever the new names are. I feel like sometimes they're like Shark Tanks. They're like, I'm not trying to compete in here. This is weird. I just wanted to come and be in community and talk about the things that we all are doing. But anywho, that's an aside. I actually I feel the same way. Like I am not, I'm drinking my water. I got my vitamin C. Like the work is getting done. I think the thing about it is, one great thing about Liz, our conversations and kind of like what we've been talking about on the podcast is like, you got to choose your own attitude around this work. Like this work has never been as as uh as like an easy slate, right? Like this has always been difficult conversations or conversations that require a lot of passion, skill, etc. Right? Like you're talking about, we are change agents and change managers, right? Like this is what we do, right? Like we're trying to move people from A to B, to inclusion, etc. Pick the word. But I think at the end of the day, like we sometimes just forget because depending on where people started in this journey, they could have been in an up cycle where everybody was like, yeah, DNI, DNIB, oh my gosh. And it felt great. But now we're in the cycle where many of our long-term practitioners, and shout out to my mentors and people who have like upskilled me, been there from when I first started the journey, who warned me about times like this. Like these are when, this is where the work actually happens. It's where you're in these lows of people saying, oh, this is not a priority, it's not important. And this is where you got to do the work. Like, get to it,
100%.
huh? Like,
Get
that's what
to
we're
it.
doing.
Upskill, integrate AI, integrate new learnings, change that language.
Yes.
And also it's also a good time to figure out who you are as a practitioner, as a
Yeah.
consultant, as a coach in this space. Because that's something that's definitely very clear to me that I think over the last year or so, I've really kind of reflected on what are my skills? And I'll call myself out. I'll call my old self out. I remember at the beginning of these podcasts and share it, and I'll be very honest. I love being the honesty part of, I'm not saying that you're not honest because you are honest,
I
but I
want
like being the
to.
let's see, who am I? Who am I? I don't know who I am, but I like being the I know I have no idea where I'm going with that. But anyways, that my perimenopause kicked in real quick. Um, but looking back at, your growth and appreciating how much we've grown and I've grown, at the beginning of the podcast, I always use this phrase because I went back and like started listening as our breaks because I missed our voices. I would say, well, I'm not an HR expert. Like I don't have an HR background. And, I would say things like that, almost like belittling my skill set that I've on my own have gotten, right? This wasn't my trade college wise, but also I'm 40 years old. College don't matter no more. You know what I mean? Like it's about the now and it's about the skills that you're gaining and growing. And so all that to say is upskill yourself, figure out who you want to be in this space. What is your um kind of, yeah, place in the space that you want to be and firm it up, like be very comfortable that here's my skill set, these are my strengths, this is how I prefer to work, and this is who I want to work with. Because I think too, for a long time, and sure, I don't know if this is how you felt and this was your experience, but definitely my experience over the last few years in this space was, it was almost like I knew what I wanted to stand for, I knew how I wanted to show up in the space, but yet it continuously was dictated in so many ways, as opposed to like, actually, you hired me here to be the expert, to be the change agent, to be the change maker and influencer. We can't just dictate here. And there was so also so much reactory moments too. Like, oh, this has happened. Let's change to this. Oh, this has happened. Let's pivot this way. And it's like, let's take a step back and be very, very intentional on how we are pivoting, because that's where that's where the disconnect between the real impact, the real work happens, and the performative.
Yeah, 100%.
That got very teacher very quickly.
No, that wasn't a teacher. I think that's just your knowledge and expertise and coming out, right? Like, I agree. I think it's hilarious sometimes. Like, I have sat in calls and I've been like watching people kind of flander around and like I love the scarf model. So like their fear kick in, their flight kick in, their fawn with all the things, right? Like, and one of the things that is typically at the core of it, right, is this unsettling fear of getting it wrong, right? And the part about getting it wrong, right, isn't always like a selfish thing. It's kind of more of a situation where all that accountability that we don't often put on our that we constantly think about, yeah, you just decide like, hey, in this moment I feel like the weight of the world is on me. Everyone's looking at me. Now this is getting all this attention. And what am I supposed to do? Right? Like, I want to make it be 100% right. And I think that's where we get it wrong, right? I think we get it wrong where we're thinking about 100% right, which makes sense when you're balancing spreadsheets or you're trying to get something to 100% that is very easily done in a spreadsheet or some type of calculation. But this is people. Like, there is not one thing that we all have agreed upon in many, many years that every single person has supported without any type of dissent, right? Like, it's always this kind of this piece. But I say all that to say is just like, hey y'all, you're well prepared for this. And if you're not, guess what? Get your vitamin C, drink your water, get your rest, and get a good book, right? If you got the bandwidth. Like, it's just all the things. It's no different than any other space, right? I'm not saying the times aren't different, but I'm just saying like we own our journey, right? We can own our journey and we can decide how we want to navigate it. And I just offer that to y'all because I remember early this year, I didn't tell you this, Liz. So someone had listened to, I had told them about our podcast about, I'm optimistic about, 2025. They were like, how can you be optimistic with everything going on? It's like, because I get to choose my perspective. Like, I get to choose my perspective. I knew what I knew in 2024. I still know those things, and with that information, I get to adjust and plan. Like, that's what life is. It's like, hey, the whole world could be doing what it's going to do, but guess what? Shara here in this bubble right here that I have in my control, I can do that. I can handle that. You know what I mean? That's the space I'm good at. So let me go ahead and take care of me or ask my community to help me be better. Like, those are the options.
Yeah. And that what that does is it brings the control back to you. Or
Yeah,
in and how we like to say it in the coaching world, right? You get that power back.
yeah,
You don't freely give your choices and your power away to people. It
yeah,
then puts to say like, okay, well, how do I want to move in this space? How do I want to show up? What do I need to do to take care of myself? I
for
know
sure.
it's going to be hard. And the thing is, you made a great point, like before we even hopped on the call, it's cyclical. This is cyclical. This isn't the first time that this has happened.
Yeah,
This isn't the first time that horrible things have happened. And that's the reality of life, right? The reality is that you're going to have ebbs and flows. But how are you you like the scarf model. I like the circle of influence and control.
yes,
That's my favorite
yeah,
place to be. It's like I gotta think about what are the things I can control, what are the things that are in within my influence, and what
yeah,
are the things that are totally outside. And
yeah,
most of us, and I'm gonna bring myself into it, most of us tend to operate in that outside of control area. But that's where the free falling comes from. That feeling when you're free falling, when you have no control, you don't know when the where the bottom's gonna be. And that's where the minute you shift your perspective into what is it that I can control? And I'm associating that, one of the things I'm learning a lot on how my brain works and appreciating that my brain and my skill sets with things like that. Now I still have a lot of work to do because I need to learn how to take care of myself in a way that works for me. But the changing your perspective on things that I have to do and things that I want to do. So when I say things like, "Oh, I have to do this report thing or whatever it is," I'm not going to ever do it. Like my brain's going to be like, "Nah, that's you're forcing me to do something. Oh, like, oh, you're telling me what to do. Like, don't do that." Whereas if I say, actually, this is a bigger part of the story and I want to do this because I cannot do the fun part or the big things until I finish this down. So I have to change my perspective on that. I have to change my language and my tone
Yeah.
to it.
I think that's such a good point. And I think it goes back to like, remember we were exchanging that article about, there was a bunch of individuals who were being laid off and many of them were searching for their identity. Like they had connected their identity to the workplace. We talked about this a long time ago, right? But like, this is one of the moments where it's like, when I read that article, I was like, wow, we've come a long way. Like we've both kind of experienced that transition between where like, you kind of get groomed to think that you need to be this person for a company and you show up very much so in your full in this fullness kind of way of like making sure that that company looks good in that company's name, and when you're around people attach it to you versus like, hey, I'm just Shara, right? Like regardless of what company it is, this is who you get. More like, oh, I'm Shara from X company, right? Like it becomes like your identity in all your spaces, and people see you only by trying to get your company in those spaces. And when I read that article, I laughed a little bit because I was like, wow, we have come a long way, and how hard it was to be like detached from that kind of corporate training of like, or how people get you to be like, you become the brand ambassador for these companies, to you being your own ambassador for yourself and you see yourself as the brand, as you as the value. And I laugh because Liz, we had some hard conversation, tears and all, right, when we were going through that separation, right? And I think our journey with CDI and other things kind of really filled that up in our community. But I think about the individuals who may be going to that. I want to just let you know I feel a lot of compassion for you, and just know that on the other side of you going doing the work of saying that that company was benefited by me, not the other way around. Like, okay, then when you figure that out and you figure out who your brand is and what you offered them, but that was really just who you are, I think you'll start to see it in such a different way. But it took a lot of work to be like, I no longer am attached to this company that I've been with, decades or whatever the case may be, and people only invite me in. I even just randomly, I notice how even sometimes for these think tanks, they only let you use your work email, and I find that always every time I have to put my work email in there, I kind of just like, I always look at the organization or the group differently because I'm like, why does that matter? Tomorrow they can decide that I'm no longer with this company, but you asked me to be a part of this group. So who do you want? You want my company or do you want me? Because I should be able to put in
Uh,
any email I
that
want.
sh that should give you the sign as to what they want. But Shara, like, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I do agree with you in terms of what happens when when that's such a big part of our identity. I'm more in the middle of it can be both, right? It just depends. I think it depends on what that company is and what that organization is. Um, I'm part of like with the company that I used to work for, part of like their kind of friends Facebook group. I mean, I don't ever look at it, but every now and then, 'cause I'm not really on Facebook anymore, but every now and then I'll go back and kind of eye hustle, see how everybody is doing. Most of it is like people dying. So it's obituaries. It's a little bit sad. But it is mostly obituaries. And what really gets me, and I think I shared this with my best friend, and I said, it's so morbid. I said, when I die and somebody's writing my obituary, do not, do not put in there what my work was. Don't put in there what company I worked for. Don't put in there what I did for a living. I really want to be testimonials or people's like, how many lives did I touch? What was the impact to my kids, to my family, to my friends, to the world, to the community? That's really what I want to talk about. That's really what I want to share and do. I don't want to that I there's that book called The Dash where it talks about, the your that dash between the year you were born and the year that you died. It's so small, it's so short, it's so small, but it can be significant in impact. And for me, it's like the identity. If you want to wrap yourself, your identity is part of your work. Because I have some really close friends, and frankly, for me, I do my part of my identity is work. I love working. I love doing like great work and being valued for it. And um, that is a huge big part of my own identity. But I really think it matters on to what that space looks like, and are you wrapping yourself in that identity because it's your choice again, and because it brings something valuable to your life, and in turn you bring your value into that life? Or is it driven by fear? Because that's a big common thing right now. It's like there are mass layoffs happening at the moment. So many people are losing their jobs, and not just the public sector, but in the private sector as well. I follow a few recruiters, and they're saying, do not quit your job in 2025, right? Again, putting that little fear in there. So it's like, what's your basis for this? Is it fear because you're focusing on that outside of your control and influence circle? Or is this really your choice?
Yeah, that's a great perspective. I mean, for sure. And also I feel like there's so many things you have to ask yourself when you're going through this transition. Like it is a loss, right? You're going to grieve it. It's all the things you're going to go through, like where's my identity, and you're going to have the questions that you just posed. And then some of it is just going to be like, okay, now that I get to choose, what is it that I want to choose? And to me, that has been the most rewarding part of the end of these, corporate connections to the beginning of who am I as a person and who am I in this world, or how I want to show up, right? Like it's beyond the profession. Like I think many of the younger generations got it right where they're like, I want to live in my purpose. And I think in different ways people have tried to, like, even us as millennials, we've tried to talk like to that, but we've had like different things that have kind of called us to, responsibility. Like we've been in kind of between trying to figure out the difference between responsibility and purpose. And I will tell you that I think at the end of anything, this is your opportunity to check in to make sure you're aligned with that dash, right? Like anytime something in friendship, relationship, this job situation, the contract we were just on, when this podcast is over and this thing, is done, it's time to check in to be like, hey, is this a lot? Am I where I want to be as far as living out my purpose? And if that is a yes, then keep going, hon. But if there is some question marks or some uncertainty, it's time to get into the work of yourself, right? Like I love the identity wheel. I think it's a very simple tool, but super powerful. And I think we don't use it enough in our conversations, because sometimes you just need to check in and say, hey, the things that matter to me this in this moment are these top three things. And sometimes that number one can change to something else. And
Yeah,
I need to
it's a
focus on
wheel.
that.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
wheel.
Like,
You know what we should do? We typically do the identity wheel to our guests.
yeah.
Maybe the next time we should do the identity wheel for each other.
Girl, we don't got
Ooh.
enough time. We don't got enough time. That identity will for me be changing, honey. It depends on what's happening. Ooh,
Well,
but my
it's a good time. My hair looks like I have a mullet. It's a good,
not a mullet. It looked
and it's
like
a
you
good.
did a wash and walk out, where it's like
I
wet and
did
wavy.
wet,
Yeah.
wet and wild.
Not wet and wild, girl. We gotta get you. I don't know where you get this. You gotta own these. Like I'm wet and wavy. I'm over here making chicken broth from scratch, hang it up. saving the planet by hanging up my clothes. Like you doing a lot, hun.
I know. It's too much. This is what happens when you're on a like I've just finished a project and I'm in between projects and looking for my new adventure kind of thing. And this is what happens when Liz gets bored. Okay, this is prime example of what happens when Liz gets bored.
Listen, I don't care because I love when you get bored. Two, your article selections that I get in the during my nighttime and you're up, you're super early mornings with the fam. I get amazing articles. I get amazing IG messages. Okay, material that makes me hilariously laugh or think very deeply. There's never in between. It's either I'm laughing hysterically or it's so serious that I'm like, I need to go journal about this. That's where we're doing. Second of all, you bring a skill. It's never a time in your downtime where you're like, so listen, I did this assessment and let me tell you how it's going to change your life or how it changed my life. Liz will get a certification on you so quick. Like she'll just be like, yeah, so what happened was I wasn't doing nothing, so I got this certification. Or, hey, you know what? I just read this 500-page research on like brain-based decisions. And I'm like, okay, Liz, I need you to go take a nap.
Why can't I go take a nap? Like, why can't I go? So day one of my break, I, I, not power wash, but I washed my couch.
What?
And yes, I did get a certification.
You did. I know you did. And you didn't tell me because I already knew. I know who you are.
Oh my God, Shara.
Listen,
Well, look, y'all need to put me on a project. So if you got a project happening, learning development, D&I, coaching, please put me on a project. Please call me, and put me on a project. I'm ready, willing, and available.
yeah. Well, to be honest with you, y'all, listen, she says this, but Liz has been kicking behind. If we think about last year, I mean, the stuff that you have gotten to work on, these projects were so interesting. And man, and the clients you work with were super amazing. Some so simple. So many of them were like they asked these very simple questions that were so complex. I was like, oh, these is exciting times, right? Like,
Yeah.
ah, I think
And
I'm. Go
you know
ahead.
what, I'm sorry. You know what, like we'll finish it up because it kind of goes back into the identity side of
Yeah.
it. And doing this work and being in this space and being in these times, there are companies that are still doing the work. There
Yeah.
are like lean into those brands, lean into those companies, support those people. Don't give in, don't perpetuate the fear, don't give in to the naysayers, because there's a lot of people who not only are supporting this work, but it's a necessity to support this work. I think about like where we get our food in the US, like our farmers and our farm workers. Those are the people that need the support, right? And that need this is why we do the work that we do. And so if you're in this space, and you're really struggling, find your community, find your space. And I think our last podcast was about this. Like it was about finding your community and lean into that work and figure out what's in your power, what's in your choice. And you pull out that scarf model. Sometimes it's those tools that we've not used in a long time. It's not this new shiny tool. It's just basic. So one of the clients that I worked on last year, they took it back to basics. How can we show up for everyone? How can we value the person across from me, right? Like, how can I make sure that the person across from me feels safe, feels valued, feels and that there's a mutual trust and respect from with one another? That's basic, basic, basic humanist, something like that. But
I love it.
so
I love humanness.
I think we can kind of end our episode in this
Yeah, I
way.
agree. I love it.
And
It's a perfect ending. I just will say one last thing, which is I'm glad we're back. Listen to us doing the things that we likes to do.
all
I'm
the
so
time.
excited. Yes, I'm so excited because listen, I love y'all. I do, but the individual conversations, and the hey, do you need you got a couple of minutes that end up being 2 hours? Ooh, child. I was like, ooh, I love y'all, but ooh, the world's spinning for everybody, hun. I don't have 2 hours every day to give to everybody. So I'm glad we're being able to bring some of the topics back to this group. Also, we're going to be doing some things together because Liz and I are already kind of like getting all the vibes, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to connect with you coming soon, quite honestly. And so, yes, stay tuned and let's close this out.
Right. Follow us at morethanwordpodcast.com. See y'all later.